Hey everybody. Happy what is it today? Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Thank you for being here and joining me right at the last minute. If you are on here, please get those likes up. Please get those likes up. Likes are free. Tag anybody or share this with somebody who you think may find it interesting. And we're going to get right into it. I did end up going live a little later than I wanted. Um, Today was wash day for my hair, so it took me a little longer to to finish things. But here we are today. I wanted to talk a little bit about this topic of polyamory, and I did a poll about this maybe a little early on this week where I was listening to Chrissie. Many of you guys are familiar with her. She is a femininity hypergamy level up page that's dedicated to dark skinned Black women. So I was listening to some of her content just because she's a thought leader in the space. So I'm always trying to get a pulse into what's going on. And she brought up this topic of polyamory, and she started to really go deeply. Well, not too deeply, but she spent a few minutes just discussing, not only her thoughts, but just the thoughts of, Black women in general behind this idea of polyamory. And I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to touch upon it because, like I said, she is a thought leader in the space. Whether or not you agree with her or disagree with her, she has, a pretty good amount of influence. So I want to briefly go over what she mentioned and what she said regarding polyamory, and then we're going to get into it. But if you're here, get those likes up, Also, please show support to this show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo Shade. Also, send through your super chats. I will be sure to acknowledge all super chat. So I'm going to start by bringing up this audio that Chrissie was playing, and like I said, the context is there's some back and forth happening in the Divester realm. Seems like there's a little bit of a civil war. But during that discussion, she, just started going in on Black women and polyamory, non-monogamous Black women. And again, like I said, I thought this was really important as somebody who promotes herself and somebody who has a brand that is about Black women leveling up, right? Black women expanding their options, Black women getting the best options that they can. And so while I was listening to her, again, a thought leader in that particular space, it led me to this question of whether or not polyamory is going to be the new level up. If that's going to be the next big thing that women are promoted, maybe not this year, but are we going to see that progression over the next few years, and maybe even generation below us where they're really going to be pushing that? So I want to get into it. Also, shout out to Percy. I see it's too high. That is absolute facts. First of all, inflation is so real, y'all, and that's something else we got to talk about when we're doing all this whole level up hypergamy stuff, y'all. We got to be realistic about rent, the cost of inflation, the cost of gas, and now with this whole war thing going on, there doesn't seem to be any talk of it going down anytime soon. So that is a really honest conversation. But anyways, I see just passing through saying hello to the beautiful host. Hey Shay, I appreciate you again for the $5 super chat. Again, if you're on there, y'all, hit the super chat, hit the like button. Likes are free. Tag anybody, share this with somebody, and we're gonna get right into it. So I'm gonna bring up this audio, and we're gonna get into it, y'all. I thought it was, like I said, coming from a hypergamy level up. I don't know if you want to say, I can't say the word activist because that's, Rashida Strober. Shout out to Rashida Strober, dark skin activist. So I think Chrissie would be level up. I don't know, promoter. I think she's more on the promoter. She's about correcting promotion. But anyways, I'm gonna pull up what she has to say, and we're gonna go from there. Okay.
With the colorism conversation and the femininity discourse and the level up discourse, stay in yours. Period. You don't get to say whatever the fuck you want to say about other platforms, and we don't get to respond.
So like I said, there's a little bit of a civil war going on right now. From my understanding, and I'm not deep into it, but basically my understanding is they're doing damage control. Divestors have gotten a bad rap, namely because of the really, really radical ones. For example, like Divested Zealot, who literally has a picture of a Black man being lynched on her YouTube profile. I don't even know why that's not taken down to this day, but it still is. And so you have profiles of channels like that are very forward with their thoughts, and they use inflammatory language. They use really grotesque, violent language. And then you have women like Priscilla and Karazin, the mother of divested from them, right? Who are just like, I don't want to associate myself with that because I don't want to associate myself with something that could be considered as a hate group. So there's a bit of a civil war, I think, going on within the divestiture space between those who are like hardcore, staunch divested, and divested anti-Black mama Sandras, and then those who are like, look, I don't really care. It's more about women expanding their options, whether or not it's with Black men or not. So they try to take a little bit more of a mild approach, and they're not trying to be directly associated with it. So that's at least what I've seen. Also, shout out to Hakeem for the $7.50 on the Cash App. I always appreciate your love and support, and I always appreciate you being here. I see self-imploding from within. Gotta love it. Yeah. So like I said, I low-key feel like there's some damage control going on, but I wanted to give you all just a little backup because you're going to hear some passion in her voice, and that's what's going on right now. But I will continue.
Fine. That's not how this works. And let me address something else. Since people want to, say, and this is what I don't understand. It got really personal. And I wasn't personal in my last live stream. But I'm going to get personal now. Because somebody said that I'm pretending not to want to get married. Because I guess no Black man wants me. I'm pretending to not want to get married. And I'm in an open relationship, and I don't, here's the thing.
Okay, y'all. So like I said, there's been some beef going back and forth, evidently with her and some other content creators. They're spreading around, their version of who they think she is, what they believe is going on with her relationship life. She is responding. So again, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Likes are free. Also hit the Cash App or Venmo. You can find me on, you can find me there, Shay, or show support to the channel by sending in a super chat. And I will be sure to acknowledge all super chats. We are reviewing Chrissie, she is a leader in the space of, hypergamy, level up femininity, specifically for dark-skinned Black women. And she brought up the topic of polyamory recently. And I wanted to go over it because, again, as a thought leader, as somebody who is positioned themselves as wanting to have, not only better corrective promotioning, but better results for Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women, I thought her position on this was pretty important just because there's so many people who are tuning into what she has to say. So we are listening to it right now, and I'm just going to give my thoughts. Okay. So anyways, and like I said, she's addressing addressing some claims that have been made about her.
I want to say something. And this is that Blackistan mentality I'm talking about. And again, you want to say you're not obsessed with Black men, but this is how I know that you are. Because you think every single thing is about them. There are Black women who are not monogamous. Hello. Are you as cultured as you say you are? Because you don't sound like it.
Okay, y'all, to me, this part right there, I thought was really interesting because in there she says, there are Black women who are not monogamous. Are you as cultured as you say that you are? As if not being monogamous is cultured, as if that is, being cutting edges, that's being sophisticated. And the interesting thing about it is that right there, Black woman not being monogamous, being, sexually loose, sexually liberal, feeds into really old stereotypes and tropes about who we are, about Black women being, like I said, sexually immoral, loose, frivolous, whatever it may be. And so to me, I don't see that as being cultured. I just see that behavior or the idea as feeding into a stereotype that we've had for a very long time. So it was interesting when she linked Black women being non-monogamous as cultured, when in reality, that for a long time has been linked to, why Black women are seen as like the Jezebels, why we are consistently put in certain lights, right, in the media, how we were portrayed as being sexually loose. Like those are age-old stereotypes that haven't gone away. So like I said, her linking that to being culturally sophisticated, I found off-putting. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up, and we are moving on.
There are Black women who are polyamorous. There are Black women who genuinely don't want to be committed. There are Black women who genuinely don't want that. It has nothing to do with Black men. It has nothing to do with divestment. There are Black women who really want that.
So as she mentioned, there's Black women who they don't want monogamy. They don't see that traditional commitment. They just don't want it. And again, her being a thought leader in the space who is very much about women expanding their options and getting the best options for themselves, she is making a declarative statement about this is what Black women, not all of them, of course, but there is a group of us, this is what we feel, and this is what we want to do. And I'm one of them. This is what she's explaining.
Like, and see, this is what I'm saying. When you get past the conversation of Black men, maybe we can start having more regular conversations, just about regular shit, about dating and just regular stuff, polyamory, monogamy. Not every Black woman is into that. I've been in the polyamorous groups for years. I've been toying with that idea for years before I even came online.
Yeah, I'll say this. It's always interesting to me in general. And this is, I won't say this is, just her, or this is something that I just noticed in the space in YouTube and digital marketing, whatever, where it's like, it's always positioned as Black woman over here, Black man over there. Like we can't work together. And even her language is like, I don't understand why you're focusing on Black men so much. Why do we have to treat this as a separate platform? And of course, I know if you listen to some of her other content, she really goes into it. But me personally, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's healthy to try to build a movement of anything, especially for women, of Black women, that is completely separate from men. Because as far as that being able to last long term, if we want this to be a long-term generational thing where our daughters and our granddaughters can be here, that actually requires Black men to be part of the equation. There's no way you put it. You need a Black man and a Black woman to come together to create a child, to have a dark-skinned Black girl, to have a dark-skinned Black boy, whatever. If that, if you're really concerned about that. So like I said, I don't like this constant tension sometimes between, in order for Black women to do well, we have to stop talking about Black men or vice versa. I'm like, why can't we look at this as a community? And I think that's one thing, again, I think can be really dangerous, if I'm just being honest. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up, tag anybody, share this with somebody who you think may find it interesting. We're talking a little bit about polyamory and whether or not that is the new level up. Also, shout out to Michael Walker with the 10 on the Cash App. I do appreciate you. Yes, how can you please like, share, subscribe? So we're just going a little bit over Chrissie and her particular thoughts about this subject, because she's a thought leader in the space, and she was talking about this. So I thought it was worth us sharing. I will continue.
This has nothing to do with, me not having a Black man or me not being able to get married. That's been a part of me. If I truly wanted to get married, I would say that. I wouldn't have a problem admitting that. Yeah, I don't think they'll ever get past it either. I said polyamory, and yes, that's part of the reason. Look, we can talk about the STDs and all that stuff. There are ways to protect yourself. Polyamory doesn't necessarily mean, or toying with the idea of being poly doesn't mean that you sleep with everybody. We'll do a whole video about it.
I'm gonna be interested to see how she breaks down polyamory. I don't pretend to be the expert on this topic at all. I'm certainly not. So I'm new to understanding. I'll be honest, like the first time I even heard of this as a thing was a few years ago, before I met my husband. I remember this was back when I was on a dating app, Bumble, and I remember connecting with this guy, and he was like, "Oh, I want a unicorn." I asked him like, "Oh, what does it mean for you? What does a unicorn mean to you?" And then he's like, "Oh, polyamory." And I had never heard of the word. I literally had never heard of the word. And I looked it up and I was like, what? Like, are you crazy? So I didn't even know that was a thing really until, I guess, relatively more recently. And I can't say this is necessarily a trend, but again, we have a thought leader in the space, somebody who is really trying to advocate for women, Black women, dark-skinned Black women in particular, who is trying to help them get better options, right? Get the options that they want to level up. And she is openly talking about how not only is she considering being polyamorous, that she knows women who are polyamorous, and this is something that's, you know, could be considered. Like, this could be really entered into the conversation. Y'all, to me, this is, I thought that was mind blowing. So that's why we're going over it. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up. Likes are free. Likes are free. Hey, Jojo, good to see you. Okay, so I'm gonna continuing on. Let's see.
Weapon.
Yeah,
I'm open to marriage. Definitely not open to having children. And I've said several times before that I'm on the fence. I'm back and forth about marriage.
Okay, so again, there we have it. You know, hypergamy level up expert thought leader. Hypergamy level up expert thought leader who teaches Black women, you know, dark-skinned women about femininity, is non-monogamous, is back and forth about marriage, does not want kids, and has been considering polyamory for a very, very long time. So I found this particular aspect of her stream, I thought, was really interesting, because she's giving us a lot of clues and details on just who she is, or as far as her ideology. And those are the kind of things I think that you should be mindful of, just, you know, when you're following, when you're listening to people. This was very telling. So again, hypergamy level up femininity coach expert, however you want to put it, for dark-skinned Black women. In these few minutes, we have found out that, again, she's non-monogamous, you know, back and forth about marriage, if that's what she wants to do, does not want kids, and has been dabbling and toying with the idea of polyamory for some time, and is planning on talking about that. So again, this is leading back to my previous question. Is polyamory going to be the new level up for Black women? Is it going to be the new level up for women in general? And again, why am I saying that? Because we just literally heard it from the horse's mouth. Here is a thought leader in the space who is putting it out there as like, this is a possible viable option. So y'all heard it. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up, tag anybody, share this with somebody. And we will keep it pushing. It
has nothing to do with Black men. It has something to do with Black men, because that's who you're obsessed about. That's who's always on your mind. That's what you're always thinking about. But, you know, I can't make you believe that. If you think I'm pretending, then you can think I'm pretending. But let me tell you something I think you're pretending about. I think you're pretending about being with a high-value white man. That's what I think you're pretending about. I don't think anybody like you can get any high-value man of any race. You're likely with a low-value white man, and you're going 50-50. That's what I think about you, with your ghetto ass. That's what I think about you. And what's a marriage if you sound like and you carry yourself like you're with a low-value man, like you're low value? That's how you carry yourself.
So I've heard this, you know, multiple times from different women who are either they are not for marriage, or they are anti-marriage, or they, you know, they're kind of on the fence with it. And this idea where it's like, okay, well, women who are married, well, who are you married to? What's the quality of your marriage? So it's like now questioning. And I get it. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that just because a woman is married or got a ring on her finger mean that she's made it. Like, there are such thing as bad marriages. Like, all we got to do is look at the divorce rate. Like, so obviously there's people who get married and don't stay together. So that's not necessarily automatically going to be a win or an emblem of success. But it is interesting to me sometimes the way these things that women want, well, she doesn't, but many women at the end of the day, if the right high volume man was able to get down on their knees and say, I want to commit to you, I want to be legally bound to you, and all these different, if it was the right high volume man that hit on the bells and whistles, I don't know one woman that would deny it. So it's interesting how, while I believe this is a real desire for many, if not most women, when we talk about it, it's as if we kind of have to find a way to maybe invalidate it. Again, these are just my thoughts. Shout out to Mr. Z Black in Effect for the 5 on the super chat. It's always good to talk. It's always good to have you here. I see Shay. I told you this is the beginning of some LGBTQ stuff and some let's share rich men talk. This is extreme escapism talk. Can't deal with reality. Well, I mentioned that in my previous post where I talked about, are we going to start to see not only polyamory, but also, alternative lifestyles, alternative sexuality being a bigger component of this. Expand your opt-ins, level up, divest, because they're kind of all connected, loosely they're all connected. So are we going to see that be more promoted? And like I said, right here, right in this audio, we are seeing what I believe to be maybe seeds to what may grow into something bigger in the future, the near future, the far future, whatever. So again, if you're on to get those likes up, also show support to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo. Sure, I'll also be sure to acknowledge all super chats. And we are quickly reviewing Chrissie, who is a thought leader in the space for femininity, hypergamy, level up space for dark-skinned Black women.
So married or not, I don't want to be like you. And that's the thing with some of these married women, they throw up the term marriage like all marriages are created equal. And I talked about that before. And it's not just the divestors, it's the pick-me's on here too with Black men who, I'm married, but look at who you're with. Nobody wants I would rather be single.
Funny that it's always the pick-me's with Black men. Like, like, is the assumption that if a woman is married to a Black man that she's automatically a pick-me? Like, I don't know. I just thought that was funny. Because that's the way I've seen it mostly used. But listen, don't let me get started. Like, how often do you see a Black woman with a white guy being accused of being pick-me? I have yet to see it, y'all. I have yet to see it. If you see it, if you ever see a Black woman who is married to a white man or a non-Black man, and she's being labeled a mammy pick-me from other Black women, from other women in this space, please let me know. I would be curious to look into that because I have yet to see it. Anyways, I'm going to continue.
With a house full of cats and dogs, then have your marriage.
Wait, I'm going to go back real quick because I think that she's
with a low value man. Like you're low value. That's how you carry yourself. So married or not, I don't want to be like you. And that's the thing with some of these married women, they throw up the term marriage like all marriages are created equal. And I talked about that before. And it's not just the divestors, it's the pick-me's on here too with Black men who, I'm married, but look at who you're with. Nobody wants I would rather be single with a house full of cats and dogs than have your marriage. I mean, maybe some of y'all are too old.
And you know what? That's what's going to happen for a lot of us. A lot of us who are just like, I would rather be single in a house with cats and dogs than be married. And that's what you'll get. That's what you'll get. And you know what? I think that's the right of every woman. Any woman who does not want to be married, who does not want to commit on that level, who does not want to cooperate with a man, learn how to work with a man, et cetera, should not get married. They shouldn't. I think they would be miserable and they would likely make the man miserable and the man would make that person miserable. So she is right that somebody who doesn't see it, who just doesn't see it that way, they just shouldn't get married. And I know, like I said, she said she's on the fence. Why she's on the fence about marriage, one can only speculate. But either way, she is on the fence about marriage. And it's very clear that the person that she's beefing with is married, but in her mind, it's a high value marriage, or it's a low value marriage. It is a low value marriage that is not worth having. I will continue.
Old, because I know some of y'all are older women, and I'm not trying to age shame or anything, but you need to look up how millennials and Gen Z are navigating relationships. We're just not committal motherfuckers like that. We take longer to commit. So I'm not, uncommon here. But again, when your mind is clouded with everything Black male and everything is about Black dick, you can't think about anything else. You know what I'm saying? Everything is about Black men. No, some shit is really just a person thing. I'm just a non-committal, screwed up ass millennial that is taking forever to settle down. That's what I am.
Okay, so again, y'all heard it. she was honest about where she's at. She was honest about, you know, her relationship prospects, her whole process as far as where she's at relationally. She was very honest. And that is what I really appreciate about this particular snippet in general, is how she's, you know, essentially revealing aspects of just what she believes, her ideology, who she is. Now, why is this important as a woman? Again, if you are following her, and if the reason you're following her is because you believe that she can help you get better outcomes in your life as far as leveling up, whatever that may mean, better outcomes in relationships. Perhaps you do want to marry a high value man. Perhaps you do believe in more traditional, traditional values, and you do want a nuclear family, whatever it may be. It is important to understand the ideologies and the track record of the person that you are following. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. If I want to, let's say I want to lose weight, am I going to now go to my friend that is 300 pounds overweight and then ask her for diet advice? Or am I going to go to a personal trainer that has been trained, that has been doing it for, you know, multiple years, that is in the gym 5-6 days a week? I'm likely going to go to the personal trainer who is trained, who has been doing it 5-6 days a week. Not to say my friend who's 300 pounds overweight may not have good ideas, but they're going to be theory at that point. And if that person has not been able to apply it to their life to get results for their life, then it is theory at best. And so that's what I'm saying. I think, you know, when we can throw around these terms and we can have these different discussions, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with somebody having a voice, and there's nothing wrong with somebody having a platform. Nothing wrong with it at all. But I do think, for me, I always try to make sure that if I'm looking for something specific, then the person I'm following has already demonstrated in their life or in their actions, by what they show, that they have it, or they at least have an aspect of it that I want to glean from. And as somebody who has made it very clear that she is just, you know, a typical effed up millennial that just is non-committal, doesn't know how to make a decision when it comes to relationships, is non-monogamous, is toiling, or at least toiling with the fact of being polyamorous, is toiling with the fact of whether or not marriage is valid, doesn't want to have kids. As a woman now, you get to decide, okay, do I want to follow this advice, or is that the kind of lifestyle I want to live? And if that's the lifestyle you want to live, then, you know, following everything that she would have to say would make sense. Or considering everything she said would make sense. But I think, again, if you're like, hey, I want marriage, or maybe, hey, I want this, she can have a perspective, I can have a perspective. But I would say, in general, especially when it comes to you actually making decisions in your life regarding marriage, regarding relationships, regarding how to get the results that you want, you better follow people who have a proven track record. And she has shown already that in those different areas of her life, she is in a stage where she's trying to figure it out. And there's some women who vibe with that, and they may vibe with that. But I think now, as far as leveling up, because I think the reason this particular audio to me was so interesting is because I know a lot of her pages about leveling up. So when I think level up, the best way that we can really do that as women, generally is we're talking about probably securing a better financial outcome. And there's a primary way that you can secure a better financial outcome. But before I get into it, I want to finish this audio. Also, a shout out real quick to Hadara Wound Care for the 10 on the super chat. I appreciate you. I see. Yeah, modern polyamory really seeks a wounded toxicity and aversion of gender roles, emotionally unstable fluidity, childlike, rebellious need to ignore traditional values to live without rules, labels. I appreciate the 10 on the super chat. I really do. I want to touch upon, I think you said some interesting things there, but I'm going to touch upon it, but I'll wait until this audio is done. Also, shout out to JoJo for the 5 on the super chat. It's always good to have you here, JoJo. Because they use words like poly as an excuse to justify their undisciplined and promiscuous behavior. You know, it's interesting in there, too, that she mentioned STDs, that there are ways for you to protect against STDs, which there are. But I mentioned this in my previous video where women, Black women in particular, we have a higher rate of STDs than our men. We do. So what is that showing about our sexual promiscuity? I think the information, the stats speak for itself. I'm going to continue. We're almost done with this audio clip.
Has nothing to do with Black men, white men, anything. That's what you want it to be about, because Black dick stays on your mind. And nobody wants your dusty marriage. Okay? And low-key, I think why you look down on other Black women who are on this side and who either have a high-value man or are getting their image together to attract one or dating different men and having fun doing it, I think you're mad because you probably never had the opportunity to do it. That's probably why you're mad. Since we're getting personal. And see, this is something else, and this is not me trying to age shame, but a lot of you young women need to be careful about listening to a lot of older women who are kind of past their time and trying to convince you to do some shit because they're no longer in the dating market and they're tapped out of the game and they don't want you to learn etiquette and they don't want you to learn how to embrace your femininity because they were never taught. They never got the opportunity to do it when they were young.
Ooh, so she said so much there, y'all. She said so much there. One of the things that stood out to me is because it sounds like the person that she's going back and forth with is somebody older, presumably somebody maybe a generation beforehand, right? And she's making this point of, listen, some of y'all young women, you cannot listen to older women who are upset, who are maybe bitter, maybe they're jealous that they're no longer in their prime. Maybe they're stuck in these low-value marriages, as she puts it. They're stuck in these low-value marriages. They're stuck in relationship with men that they don't want to be. They are victims of their own relationship, their poor relationship choices, and they are sad at younger women who are out there exploring their options. That's essentially what she said. And she hit upon this point, right, where she was like, they're upset because they never got the chance to teach, to learn about etiquette. They never got the chance to learn about essentially, what to do. They never got the chance to learn about class and how you act as a woman. What does it mean to be able to operate in these different environments? They never got the chance to do that. So now they're mad at you. She made that point, and I thought that was so interesting, and it was so revealing because I'm thinking, okay, if we can now look back at our elders and say, you never learned etiquette. You didn't learn what it means to be a woman. You didn't learn what it means to how to navigate in these different situations. Well, if our mothers didn't learn that, or if our aunties didn't learn that, if our elders didn't learn that, then how are we as women learning it? Who are we getting it from? If they didn't get it and they were our teachers, they're the ones who was raising us up when we were young girls, then where are we getting this stuff from? How are you going to learn if you're literally saying they didn't learn? And I thought that was, to me, that was so crucial. That was so crucial. Because I think she really hit on some key points there, which is the fact that, yeah, there are a significant amount of people from that generation, either they didn't teach us, right, or they weren't taught, as she alluded to. And again, now when we're going back to this question of femininity, why is there the need for femininity coaches? Why is there the need for femininity coaching? You got women doing online courses, doing private one-on-one screenings, right? You got women, like I said, having femininity coaching lessons through their avatar, which to me that's a whole another session. But again, there is a market behind femininity coaching. Why is that? And she just said it. It's because many of us they didn't grow up with that example. She literally alluded to it. We did not grow up with that example. And of course there's cases, I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm saying this is everybody. But it seems to me that it's significant enough of people in this generation who didn't grow up with it that now we are turning to femininity coaches. Like I said, we're turning to thought leaders on their space. And we'll flock to somebody whether they show their face or not. Like I said, she has over 200,000 subs and she's never shown her face. And like I said, just the fact that we'll do these kinds of things because we're so hungry for the information, we're so hungry for the content, we're so hungry for what we weren't taught that we'll be willing to take it any way we get, whether it's it's in person or it's that live interaction with an adult that you get from your family, or whether it's just through listening to an avatar that we've never seen their face before. We may never seen their face before, and that's enough. So I thought that was so interesting. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. Tag anybody. Share this with somebody. Also, share support on the cap. Venmo. You can find me Shay Sade. Also, hit the Cash App, y'all, to show some support. If you like the show, if you like what we're about, I will need your help to keep this going. So please show some support on the Cash App. I will be sure to acknowledge all Cash Apps. And we're talking a little bit about polyamory, and I'm going over this audio that a thought leader in the Level-up Hypergamy Femininity space, Chrissie, did that I thought was so revealing, so revealing. So I think we're almost done here. I'm just playing the audio really quickly, and then we're going to move on.
A lot of it's jealousy. So be careful with any Black women trying to steer you away from that and trying to say it doesn't matter and it never works. Newsflash, you need etiquette to roll in certain circles, but you probably don't know about that because you're a bird, because you're ghetto as shit. This is shit that you and other Blackistan divestors don't know about and never had the opportunity to experience. A lot of you, not all of you, but a lot of you who are talking the most shit.
Right. So again, and now this could be arguably could be a class. It could be a question of class, right? It could be a question of because you're going to have, there's certain protocols that you may have in a upper middle class or a a high class environment that are not maintained or are not necessary in a lower class environment. So it could be some of what she is referring to is a bit of a class argument. But again, I thought that was that entire snippet to me was just so revealing. She really, shared a lot about her values, about her ideologies, and also that of those followers. And this is again why I wanted to bring this up, because as a thought leader in this space, as she is, as somebody who was really passionate about wanting to help Black women level up and get better outcomes in their life. The fact that, again, she's mentioned being, non-monogamous, right? Mentioned with playing with the idea of being polyamorous, back and forth, playing with the idea of whether she wants marriage or doesn't want marriage, made it very clear she does not want kids. All these different things these are all different things that are not by any way, shape, or form traditional. And the most interesting thing about all of those different points is that now how does that lifestyle, how would that lifestyle help a woman level up? So here's my thing. Generally, when we think of, a woman leveling up, we can all have our own definitions. Usually when you talk to somebody, they're going to say, oh, well, of course, it can be level up emotionally. It can be level up career-wise. It can be level up your health routine. So that whole term can be very nebulous, which sometimes people love to be nebulous so they can never be held accountable for what they say. That term it can be nebulous, but most of the time we know that it has to do with a woman securing a better financial outcomes, or at the very least, that's going to be an aspect of her level up, is securing better financial incomes, right? Period. So how does a woman being polyamorous lead to a level up? And here's one of the issues, or one of the challenges that I have sometimes with some of these conversations in general when it comes to leveling up, or when it comes to being hypergamous. I think until there are very clear definitions as far as what is the ultimate goal, then it can be hard to really measure success. Sometimes, and I'll say this, look, I can be guilty of this too as women. I think sometimes when we can talk about things, or we can talk about actually wanting to get results, it can be really hard sometimes to just hammer down and be like, this is the ultimate goal, because there can be so much subjectivity. It can be so much nuance of like, oh, it's based upon the person, depending upon the person. Usually when I actually ask somebody blatantly, what does it mean to level up? It's always dependent upon the person. It's always very, very nebulous. It's always very ethereal. It's always very subjective. And again, what that means, if we don't actually have a clear definition of what level up means, then how can you actually measure whether or not you are helping people, or that person is actually leveling up? How do we know that they're progressing, or that they're getting away from their goals? So, that was my first thing. And I know in that particular audio, she's not necessarily promoting it. She's just saying, hey, I'm into this, and there's a woman that I follow who are into this, and she said she is going to continue to talk about that. And so she's kind of, I think pointing to a trend that if it's not already popular, it might be within the next few years, few decades, whatever. And again, my bigger question is, if polyamory, if that becomes more of a norm and it becomes more generally acceptable among the Black female population, how is that going to help them level up their life? How is that going to secure better outcomes for them, whether it's financially? How is it going to help them secure better outcomes as far as just stability, emotional stability, familial stability? How is that really going to help them? What is that going to mean? So again, if you're on here, get those likes up, tag anybody or share this with somebody who you think may find it interesting. Please also share, show your support to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo Sade. Also hit the Cash App, y'all, if you like this content. And if you want to see it grow, I will need your support. So hit the Cash App, y'all. I will be sure to acknowledge all Cash Apps. And we are talking a little bit about polyamory and whether or not this is the new level up. So we just went over an audio from Chrissie, again, Level-up Hypergamy for thought leader for dark-skinned Black women, where she basically was talking about polyamory as a thing. She's going to talk about it on her platforms, and there are many Black women who are considering it, who have been considering it. And like I said, I found that to be so telling as somebody who's trying to lead women in this space. So again, this brings me back to my original question. Is polyamory, is that the new level up? And is that going to help women actually level up and have better results in their life? Is it going to help? Is it going to encourage better behavior? Is it going to encourage better outcomes if more and more women take on this outlook? Will this lead to better, happier lives for them personally and better, happier lives for the general collective? That's something I'm thinking about. So there was also, let me see if I can pull this up. There's one other quick audio I want to play. And this is another, it's called Polyamorous Black Girl Battles for Acceptance with Online Blog. This is a woman who's not toiling with it, but she is openly polyamorous, Black woman. So I want to play the audio of that real quick. And then I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to get into my further points. And again, we are exploring this idea of how is polyamory, is this the new level up? Is this what Black women want? Is this what they need? Is this want to put them to the next level? So let me pull this up, y'all, real quick, and I'm going to play through it. And then I'm going to break down some of the different things that I've noticed and am noticing just in this whole general idea.
All week here on City News and in an upcoming documentary, we're taking a look at people who choose non-traditional relationships. Monogamy means you spend your life with just one person, but one woman is on a different path. She chooses to love freely and openly with multiple partners. A path for her, she says, is the right one, but it has not been easy.
Okay, just real quick, y'all. Just because something is traditional doesn't mean that it's bad. Doesn't mean that it's outdated. I'm going to just put that out there. I'm not saying everything traditional or everything old means that it's 100% the truth. But I think sometimes there is such a fight against tradition, or there's such a fight against things that have already been established, that it's not necessarily healthy. There are some traditional things that are actually good. Like, let me just put that out there. But I just want to, let me just continue, because I see that sometimes. I see that sometimes.
Yeah, it is a daily battle.
And Alicia Bunyan Sampson has fought many battles in life for racism.
I grew up in, the suburbs, and I was like one of two Black girls.
To now defending her choice of love.
There are continual consequences in my being poly.
Poly as in polyamorous, meaning she does not restrict herself by loving just one partner. A part of her she hid for many years.
It was kind of something I always...
You don't restrict yourself? Like, y'all, okay. I'm already noticing the language. Like, really? You don't restrict yourself, as if the idea of being monogamous is restrictive. That, to me, the choice of words is really interesting. Also, y'all, notice the background music. Notice the background music. That's very, like, sympathetic. Just notice that.
Put in the back of my mind that maybe you're like a little slutty, and that's what this is about. So you just tuck that away and date the way everybody else dated. And I did that, but it never quite worked. And then when I was in college, and I started meeting people who live like non-traditional lives, that's when I learned about polyamory.
But coming out as poly has been tough.
Non-monogamy on its own, right, like it is seen like as a perversion, but I think a non-monogamous woman is incredibly perverse for folks.
As we reported yesterday, acceptance of non-monogamy is growing in society, but for Alicia, there's another layer of complexity.
Polyamory and Blackness is still something that people are really like turned off about. It's a very taboo thing. I think especially like for Black Canadians, because they're incredibly conservative. It's just not a thing.
John Paul Boyd QC is a lawyer from Calgary. In 2017, he surveyed people identifying as polyamorous.
A remarkable 90% of our respondents self-identified as being Caucasian or of European ancestry, which is far disproportionate to the representation of non-whites in Canadian society.
Alicia is...
So, a lot there. We're almost done. Basically, y'all hear this. Y'all hear this. He says, shout out to Philip Scott. Oh man, I'm sharing those sentiments right now. Also, shout out to JoJo for the $5 on the super chat. I see Tupac represented that thug life. This Chrissie chick represents that thug. I can't. JoJo always saying something silly. I can't with you. Call me and pick me. Shout out for the 3. Is that Euro? 3 Euro super sticker. I appreciate y'all. I really do. I do. Also, again, to Hadara Room Care, I hope I'm not butchering your name. Please forgive me if I do. I say true polygyny is one man with wives and children. He provides for equally supporting his vision, helping community as a whole. Each wife is monogamous to him, not sexual with other men, nor each other. Polyamory, LGBTQID, and confused. Yeah, no, what you described. And that's a whole different conversation, because what you describe polygyny, yeah, that's more common. But I mean, there's so much more behind it. First of all, yes, it is technically like marriage. Like there's still marriage associated with that, but it's just one man that happens to generally have multiple wives. Also, in societies that function like that, there's entire society, their community structure, the political structure, even the economics, like their society is kind of built to sustain that framework. So it's a completely different, they're under a completely different cultural lens. In this context, this capitalist context in the West that we live in, not only is it not built for women to be operating like that from just a polyamorous perspective, or to have all these different multiple men or multiple husbands, I just don't think it's good for women's nature. I don't think it's good for women's nature. But I'm going to continue with this audio. Like I said, the interesting thing about this entire thing is, y'all notice the sympathy, like the background music, the violins, like, how it's really hard for her, and how when, people would find out that she was toying with the idea of basically having different or multiple sexual partners. And of course they'll say, well, it doesn't mean you're having sex with everybody. But still, the idea that you're engaging romantically, with multiple people at once, she felt ashamed. She felt like, well, this is what, they would say, fast woman would do, or a woman with no morals would do, or, 304s, whatever. And so it's interesting. Again, it's interesting to me to hear like the violins and the sympathy in this whole setup. Y'all, I'm going to link the video to this in the description box so y'all can check it out yourself. I'm almost done. It's about we got about a minute left of this audio.
It's now working to change that. She blogs about being Black and polyamorous.
Initially, it was called Diary of a Polyamorous Black Girl, but then I changed it to Polyamorous, just Polyamorous Black Girl. But like it's supposed to be just like a diary.
She hopes her story of coming out as poly provides a safe place for others who have the same feelings.
I want Black girls like me to be seen. Welcome to all of the things with Polyamorous Black Girl. I am Polyamorous Black Girl.
In an upcoming documentary on City TV, Alicia shares more of her story. She also takes on the critics, including her own friends. If you could wave a wand to make her not polyamorous, would you?
Oh, that's heavy. That was pretty heavy. It's a good question.
The documentary takes you inside a world you may have heard about, but have rarely seen like this.
I'm being honest, and that this is who I am, this is what I want, and I believe in it.
To follow more of Alicia's journey and others who are following non-traditional routes to love and family, watch Thoroughly Modern Families. The documentary airs this Sunday at 9 p.m. only on City TV. Pat Taney, City News.
So like I said, y'all, I'm gonna add that to the description so y'all can check it out. But you heard, we looked at two different things. Chrissie, a thought leader for dark-skinned Black woman, and she, man, that entire snippet to me was just she revealed so much, right? So much. And one of the main components was basically polyamory and how she's going to be talking about that in future podcasts, and how there are Black women out there who are cultured enough to be non-monogamous and to be polyamorous. Again, this is coming from an expert or a thought leader in the space of level up and woman expanding to get their best options. So that's what we listen to. Now we just listen to another woman she is not dabbling with polyamory. She is polyamorous. So she just gave her take of being a Black woman, evidently in Canada, who's polyamorous. She started a blog, she started a thing, and she wants to create a space where Black women in particular can feel more comfortable coming out and being polyamorous. So this is what we looked at. Okay. Again, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. Likes are free. Tag anybody or share this with somebody who you think may find it interesting. So, here are my thoughts on this entire topic. Okay. First of all, what's so interesting to me, I listened to a few other discussions around this whole idea, a few other, listen to other YouTubers, other people who are talking about their journey. And there's this consistent theme I've seen of people coming up talking about how the reason they want to be polyamorous is because they have a lot of love to share. They have so much love to share that they cannot contain it to one person, right? Or, there's this idea of, the more love, the better. So why not? Like that's kind of like a consistent theme that I've heard. And again, I don't pretend to be an expert on this topic. I'm certainly not. But this is just a basic general understanding of what I've seen. Now, here's one of my first contentions with that idea, because y'all, if we just look at the divorce rate, okay, you mean to tell me most people out here can't even stay married to one person? But then now we got all the love in the world to be trying to get committed to multiple people. Like, to me, that just makes zero sense to me. It makes zero sense. And then even when we talk about this whole idea of love, because I was hearing these different people express it, and it wasn't very nuanced. It wasn't very nuanced at all. Like when you talk to older couples who've been married for some time and they're describing love, like they usually there's like clear, verbs associated with it, right? Like there's clear actions, right? I love my husband. I helped him through his sickness, right? I helped hold him down when he was going through, I don't know, this addiction, or, we sacrificed this. Like, I don't know, like there's very clear, actionable, activity that they will talk about. There's sacrifice, longevity, there's patience, there's long suffering. Like these are all things. These are not necessarily even feelings per se. A lot of this stuff is action, it's action oriented, and it's very real, and it's very hard. It's very adult. And like, so this is when you talk to people who've been married for a couple of decades, like it's some real stuff. And so when I hear younger people who many times have admitted to not being successful with one person, and then all of a sudden they have all the love in the world to just commit to all these other different people. Honestly, y'all, I'm just going to be honest. To me, it just sounds a little bit selfish. It just sounds like you're just trying to find whatever you can from all these little different people. And the thing about true love and true relationship is that it's about giving. You're going to, you will receive stuff back. Like there's a symbiotic relationship, but it is also about giving. And to me, I think at the core is that there's so many things, in my personal opinion, that I believe are off and wrong about this whole setup. First of all, as a woman, if you're a polyamorous, who are you Like, who are you under? Like, who's going to be your covering? And I know that whole idea. I know that idea right now. People are just cringing. Like, oh my gosh, I don't need to be under nobody's covering. I don't need to be under nobody's leadership. I'm my own woman. I'm my own leader. I know nobody wants to hear that. But if you're a woman, right, married to a man, you're in a relationship with a man, there is a level of authority that he has. There's the authority that you have too as a woman. So there's no beef there. But it's like the natural symbiotic relationship between masculine and feminine, the way you work together, there is going to be a head, right? There's going to be somebody who's going to be leading the charge in certain things. That doesn't mean that the woman is a doormat. That doesn't mean that maybe she's not leading in certain capacities or she doesn't have, more influence in certain areas. But ultimately, there's going to be a head. Ultimately, there's going to be somebody who's helping to establish order and boundaries, helping to move the vision forward. That's generally what the man is doing in the relationship. How does that work in a polyamorous setup where you're not really fully committed to anyone? It's open. So it's like, okay, if it's open, then what happens if this man that you're sleeping with, he has a vision that he's trying to implement, he has goals he's trying to implement, and you don't want to do that. So do you now go sleep with the person? You're like, okay, I'm going to go over there. Now he has goals, he has a vision, he has things he's trying to work on. You don't want to do that. Now you go over there. So it's like this whole non-committal thing, to me at the end of the day, just sounds like women who simply they are not comfortable with the setup of what it actually requires to keep a marriage or a long-term relationship going. They just don't want to do it. And instead of maybe saying that, it's just like, oh, love. And I'm like, is that really love though? Is it really love? Y'all, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. Tag anybody. Share this with somebody. Also, show support to the Cash App or Venmo. You can find me there, Shay Sade. Or you can also support me on the Super Chat, y'all. So, but yeah, so that's the first thing. The first thing I'm thinking is this entire setup to me sounds completely confusing, if I'm just being honest. This sounds so confusing to me. Because again, I'm just thinking when you're trying to work together to establish something, who has the final say? And I heard a lot in there, like, okay, it's open communication as long as you're openly communicating with your different partners. Okay, but I can't imagine a setup where that wouldn't be totally and completely confusing. And especially if you're working together with a strong man, you're working together with a strong man that maybe has like a clear vision or something that he believes God is trying to have you do. He's not going to want to necessarily have to compromise that with other dudes. He's not going to want to be like, okay, this is what God has shown me, but now let me go check with that dude over there sleeping with and that dude over there that you're not sleeping with, that you're emotionally bonded to. He ain't gonna want to do that. So I don't see, as far as trying to have any stability long term, I don't see how this works. Now, if it's just a matter of you feel a certain kind of way and you just want to express whatever it is that you feel, you have all these sexual desires and that feels free to you, okay. But I can't say that's going to lead to a good result long term. Here's the thing about it. People don't understand, just because something feels good or just because, it makes you happy in the immediate does not necessarily it's going to lead to happy results. That's essentially what sin is. Sin is it feels good, right? It feels good to your carnal members. It feels good to your fleshly members, but the results that are produced is not necessarily good. The results that it produces in your life is damaging. It produces more negativity than positivity. And so I think, again, this is just from the different things that I've heard, just the different things that I was listening through. I saw this consistent theme, and it just seemed like you just didn't want to commit. And again, that's what, Chrissie, she mentioned that. She's like, listen, I just don't want to commit. I am a typical millennial that just does not want to commit. And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate her for just being so upfront about that. I think she was upfront. She was open. She was honest. And I'm like, yeah. Now, I would say as a woman, if you are following her and you have clear goals as to what you want in your life, you have got to be just in general really cautious about who you are taking advice from. You've just got to be cautious. Now, if you follow her and you're like, hey, I vibe with her, which her relational aspects, whatever, that's one thing. But if it's like, hey, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want to literally level up, right? Because only the best way for you to level up as a woman in today's society, it don't matter how you spin it, is marriage. It really is. Most women out here aren't going up and being, you know, billionaires or just going up here getting wealth like that. Like, period. It's easier. It's best for you to build any kind of other stability within the context of marriage, especially if you're a woman and you have a kid. If you have a woman and you have a kid, your level up opportunities drop exponentially. So the most practical way for a woman, if we're just looking strictly from an economic standpoint, from an aspect of just having stability in that standpoint, is marriage. So if that is what you want, then you should be following or primarily listening to people who have demonstrated in their life that they have those results successfully. I say that for anybody. It's like, again, what you want, don't just follow somebody because they have big followers. Don't follow somebody because they say everything you want. I said that even about me. I have my opinion, but that doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I'm certainly not. Like, ultimately, you want to look at the person, their life, and their results. And if their life and their results speak to something that seem like, okay, this is real, this is authentic, and they are demonstrating through their life and through their outcomes that they have something, follow that. Just don't do it because somebody is popular. Because just because somebody is popular doesn't mean that they have the authority on that subject matter. This goes for anything. So that's what I'm saying. I think women, when we throw on these different terms, we throw on these different ideas. And it's okay for us to talk about it, and it's okay for us to have our opinion and our perspective, fine. But now when it comes down to actually getting those results, when it comes down to now following people, right, or taking advice, ideally, this is where we would have our elders. This is where we would have elders, spiritual leaders in our life, parents who would really pour into us and steer us in the right direction. This is why we need them. And it is sad when we got elders who are competing to still be young, because it does happen. But for those who are not, those are the people that you primarily want to be listening to. You want to start there. And then, like I said, you got to look at people who actually got results in their life. Don't just follow me. Just don't follow somebody who's on YouTube or they got a brand or they got a lot of follow. You can't do that. You got to look at what are they actually about? What is their life results? Do I want that? Then you take that into consideration. Again, y'all, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Likes are free. Likes are free. I see y'all going off in the comment section. Said, might as well be swingers. Don't sound stable. Yep. Absolutely. Black Americans can't be polyamorous. Someone will use it to their advantage for extra. Right. Like I said, this whole setup, y'all, this whole setup to me sounds like some BS. I ain't gonna lie. It just sounds like women at the people in the day. When I guess I'll say women because women in here are the aspect. It sounds like women at the end of the day who just they reject non-traditional or they reject traditional values, which okay, they reject really the responsibility that would be associated with being in a marriage, being in a committed relationship with a man. They just don't want that. They just don't want that. And so when you reject that, you now have to look for alternative options. If you say, I don't want what is traditional, you have got to look for non-traditional options. The problem is this society wasn't necessarily set up for those non-traditional options. Also, the majority of existence hasn't really existed based upon those non-traditional setups. So it's like now it's kind of like we're in this big experimentation mode. And somebody may choose to be polyamorously and do whatever, but as far as is that going to actually help the general collective of women, the next generation? Is that going to help, generation 2 down the line? Is that going to help the general collective? Definitely not. A polyamorous setup, way I see it, I don't see any way that that's going to help women long term. I don't see any way that would actually help them secure a stable lifestyle. I just don't see it. Because like I said, you having non-committal situationships just sounds like emotional chaos. Because now, again, listening to these things and they're talking about love, oh, well, just all this love, all this fluff, all this love. That's all I heard. It just sounded very like flowery hippie. And I'm like, y'all, okay, it sounds like you just like one woman in particular, a Black woman, and she's like, oh, she had a white boyfriend for all these years, and she's like, but I can't be my Black self with him. So now I have my Black boyfriend because now I don't have to worry about race with my Black boyfriend. So she had 2 boyfriends for her different needs. And I'm like, again, now, so what happens now? Let's say you want to have kids. Now what happens is like, He gets a vision, the other person gets a vision. Are you guys now having to try to work together? What happens when we want to have kids? Who has the final say? Whose authority are you under? And again, I know that the term authority doesn't sound good, but I'm talking about spiritually. Like, there is a spiritual component to all of this. And when you are committed to a man, like, there's a spiritual authority that he has, there's a spiritual authority that you have. And when you mess up that symbiotic relationship, it's chaos. It is utter chaos, y'all. So again, shout out to JoJo with the 5 on the super chat. I appreciate you. I see Chrissie that hot. You taking over 99 in 2000, girl. You look good. Want you back with thing? I'd be a big fan more you peasant. JoJo, stop. You gonna get me in trouble. I'm trying to be nice. Stop. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So like I said, I'm like, y'all, I just don't see how it's gonna work. I just do not see any situation where being polyamorous will work in the favor of Black women as a collective. Now, we can all argue this, how you level up and expand your options that's based upon the person, right? Where now we don't have a clear definition of what it means to level up. Now we don't have a clear definition of what it means to have success, whatever. We could do that. But I'm like, again, when there's not necessarily clear guidelines, or at least general guidelines, then it can get really nebulous, and then you can never be held accountable for anything. And you know what's so funny to me is that I feel like we want to always have kind of nebulous, unclear, always changing subjective ideas of success for women. But when it comes to men, it's pretty dang clear what they need to do. Okay, men need to have enough money. They need to have enough money. They need to have a good job. They need to be stable. Primarily, they need to look good. For most Black women, they need to look good. But at the very least, they need to have that bag. Goals are clear. They are set for dudes. 100%. They are set. Ain't nobody asking, oh, well, what does success look like for you? Like, I mean, imagine that. Imagine if you asked a man, oh, what does successful relationship look like for you? And he was like, well, I just feel like, maybe I make 40,000, but it's not about the 40,000. It's just about, my purpose. And like, would that ever fly? Would we ever allow men out here to have subjective, ever-changing goals about what is generally seen as successful when it comes to relationships? That would not ever fly. So it's so interesting to me that when it comes as women and what we see as a level up, or what we generally see as like, okay, here's something to work towards, or here are good outcomes. It's always very nebulous. It's always very ethereal. It's always like, oh, well, you could have sex with 100 men in a week, or you cannot. It's about how you feel. It's about your love. It's about you expressing yourself and being free and not having boundaries. But then when it's men, it's like, nah, he better be making that money. He needs to bring home enough money. Okay. Those lights never need to turn off. Water needs to stay on. He needs to have a good job. Like, it's very clear and concise what men need to do. So then that's one of the things that's always interesting. And that's what shows me at the end of the day, I'm just like, I just think the whole reason that we're even having this conversation is just because at the end of the day, there are women who just, they choose to reject. They choose to reject traditional standards, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you were just like, listen, I don't want to marry. I don't believe all women are wives. I don't believe all women should marry and become wives. They're not, because not everybody is meant to do that. Not everybody is wife material. So if you reject traditional standards, okay. But I think now the issue becomes if there is this push or this large acceptance for something that is non-traditional, and literally society is not really set up for that. And also, by the way, we haven't really existed like that for like hundreds of thousands of years. I don't see how that would be a successful thing if many women took it on ever. I think it would be a bad idea. I would not support it. I would never encourage a woman that I knew or loved to be polyamorous. I would never encourage it. I would discourage it. If they did do it, I wouldn't hate on them or block them per se. But I don't think it would lead to good results. And even if a person was to do it for a while and feel like they were happy, I believe it would cause chaos somewhere down the line. Somewhere in their life, somewhere down the line, something would be off, because we're just not meant to operate like that as women. I don't care how you spin it. y'all. But but those are just my thoughts. So again, shout out to everybody here. Again, if you want to show support to the show, hit me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. Also, hit the Cash App. So y'all, those are primarily my thoughts. I didn't have much else to say other than the fact that I think it's a bad idea. Now, do I think that we're going to see this continue? If we continue to see there being such a tension between men and women and an inability to come to the drawing board and say, okay, let's try to work things out, I think we will see more people dabble around with all kinds of different things, but I don't think that's going to lead to success. I don't think that's going to lead to happy outcomes. Because we were not created that way. We just were not, period. So when you are operating outside of God's design for your life, you're not going to have long lasting happiness or peace. You're not. There's going to always be some level of chaos. I don't care how you put it. So I have a few minutes. I don't know if any of you guys want to call in. If you guys want to call in and open up the call lines, I will need 3 more super chats. If I get 3 more super chats, then I'll open up the call lines. If not, then I will shut this thing down and come back later. So I'll give you guys a few moments to decide. And let me see. I can roll through these comments I get. Yeah, poly for a man in a capitalist society sounds like an expensive disaster. That's what I'm saying, y'all. You got people who can't even get along with one person. You got women that can't even get along with one man. How all of a sudden you now have got enough love to be getting along with multiple men and women? Like, that don't make any sense to me. So like I said, you said, I'm coming up. I paid, y'all pay, so I can. Yeah, like I said, if I get at least 3 super chats, and then I'll open up the call lines. If not, then I will shut it down. And I appreciate you, Mr. Z. I know you're always showing some love and respect. It's always good to have a chat. Hey, Chantel, thanks for stopping by. It's always good to have you in. Hey, Black One. You said my hair is always on point. I literally I just washed it. It was my wash day. Hakeem, you are always showing love and support. I appreciate you. Shout out to Hakeem. Let me just give a special shout out to Hakeem because he's always showing some love. You know yeah, so Hakeem's always showing some love. Like I said, y'all, need at least three super chats, and I'll keep the lines open for some time. If not, then we gonna shut it down, and we will keep it pushing. Like I said, if you like this content, you like what's happening over here, I'm gonna do my best to continue to try to bring y'all hot stuff off the press, good topics, good information, my perspective. I will need your help also get this thing going because y'all already know this algorithm works. And let's see. He said, how can we need 2 more? Mr. Z, Black in Effect. He's ready, boy. He's ready. So y'all definitely support the content creators that you like. You already know this is a job for some of us. It ain't as easy as it looks. But yeah, that's what I'm saying, y'all. I'm like, it's just crazy how when we reject, I feel like just basic things, you know what I mean? Like we reject basic, how do I put it? Just basic adult understandings of this is what it means to be a woman. This is what it means to be a man. Like when we break that, it's just so crazy to me how these things, in my humble opinion, devolve. Having a generation of people who are openly and willingly polyamorous, I don't see how that will help the general collective population of women. I do not see it. I don't think that is a good idea. I think that will lead, certainly from a societal standpoint, utter chaos. We already have it. And like I said, if the general consensus right now is that women don't want to submit. The whole idea of submission is frightening, and the whole idea of submission is disrespectful to women's rights, if that's the general sentiment within monogamous relationships, how do you think now being in relationship with all these multiple people is just going to make all that go away? If you have hatred for men, or if you don't respect men, or if you don't want to submit, or if you don't want to cooperate with men, those ideologies are still going to follow you, whether or not you are in a monogamous setup, or you're sleeping around, or romantically engaged, or emotionally engaged with different people. It's still going to be there. The disrespect is going to be there. And if we are opening up options in these ways because we have not been able to successfully learn how to get along with the opposite sex as heterosexual women, don't think that's going to lead to long-term success. It just sounds like it's going to lead to a whole lot of STDs and thought in it up. But y'all, that's just my position. So okay, I got some love in there. So shout out to Game Junior 58. You're always another great support. I do appreciate you. Same with Torenzo Jones for the 5. I see poly in a monetary system is prostitution. It's poly prostitution only you ran through and used right. It's not a bad setup. And you know what that's what I was saying earlier. If you was listening to the music on the last audio, how they were making it all sentimental, like they were setting the mood, like it was just like it was all like, oh, they're trying to make light of it. And I'm like, why are we making light of something that I think will generally damage people? I don't like that. Okay, and I got another super chat I want to acknowledge. Okay, and then Hakeem again. Wait, is it this? Okay. Yeah, Hakeem. I always appreciate you. So, okay, so I'm gonna drop the call line. Shout out to Hakeem. Thank you. Call me a pick me. Yeah, pick me's are picked, right? Pick me's are picked. And y'all, did y'all notice that too? Again, how I notice this now. Anytime there's this talk of marriage, I'm starting to notice this too. How like women who are not non-monogamous, polyamorous, whatever kind of marriages, there's always a way to undermine it. It's always like, oh, well, who are you married to? Or well, we don't want a marriage like that. So it's like, even if you are married, or if you're all like, hey, I'm in a relationship I'm happy with, now you got to find a way to undermine it. Now you got to find a way to not be good enough. Now got to be, oh, well, he's too short. Oh, well, he ugly, or well, he dusty. So it's like, there always has to be a way to undermine, right? There always has to be a way to, I think, whether it's shame or to kind of pick your nose up at people who are doing things that most women want. But again, y'all, those are just my thoughts. I just don't think it's a good setup, period. I don't recommend it. I don't think nobody's gonna be happy doing it. You might initially, but it's gonna lead to chaos. It's just gonna lead to chaos. And I may be the unpopular opinion on this one, because I know there's all these kind of women that want to have different ideas of what it means to be, whatever, or level up. But I'm like, no, this is not it. I just don't think this is it. Okay, we got some on the lines here. How's it going?
What's going on, Shay? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. How's it going?
Good. Oh my God. At least she finally told the truth. God, she finally.
Listen, I was like, dang, this was so revelatory. I'm like, man, I should do that.
Yep, and I would rather live with my cats and dogs, like that there. I'm like, finally y'all saying it, right? So what this really is, and I always say this: Black women like this only tell the truth when they're pissed off at other Black women, right? When they're angry at other. Notice where she went. Some of these women, exactly. Notice where she went. Some of these women don't know femininity, so she told us the truth there. She told us she would rather live with cats and dogs than be married if marriage looked like this, right? So we already see where she's going with that. She's flirting with the idea of polyamory, right? So mind you, when she first came in the scene with and she used to do videos with Sergeant Willie Pete and whatnot. Okay. She wasn't sounding like this, right? Even when her and Sergeant Willie Pete fell out, she wasn't on this, right? I think the manosphere, all of us in the Black manosphere, but specifically Kevin, we put these particular sisters back to the wall to the point where now they're either going full on scorched earth with their rhetoric, or they're saying stuff like this. They're just telling you, like, you know what, I'd rather not get married, I don't want to have kids. And it's honesty, right? It's okay, let me finally tell you what it really is.
I appreciate it, for real.
Mm-hmm. And now younger women now they have some choices to make. Are you going to follow these women into the depths of hell?
Well, and that's what I'm saying, because I'm like, what I loved about this discussion is that, to your point, it was clear.
Mm-hmm.
She is a hypergamy, level up femininity thought leader who is non-monogamous, non-committal, doesn't know she wants marriage, doesn't want kids, and is toiling with the idea of polyamory.
You see what I'm saying? Exactly.
So again, if this is your version of leveling up, okay. I don't see how a polyamorous lifestyle would ever help any Black woman, for that matter. But the collective of Black women level up, at the very least financially. I don't see it. I'm missing it. And don't even get me started on spiritually, emotionally, what it's going to do to you psychologically. So I'm just like,
the lack of stability. We don't even if we don't let's take the finance out of it for 2 seconds. The lack of stability, emotional stability, because you're not with one man. You're not committed to one man, right? We already see what's going on all across, quite frankly, the Western Hemisphere with women and men just piping whoever they want to pipe, right? So we already, and now you want to turn that into like a system, maybe?
oh my God. That's what
Somebody tell me how this works.
Like, you people, and that's, to me, I was like, stop the cap. Because if we look at the divorce rate, people hardly can't even get along with one person. Now you listen to people who were promoting this lifestyle and they would literally be like, oh, I had a hard time in a monogamous setup, but now all of a sudden I got all this love for everybody else. I'm like, so you mean to tell me you couldn't do well with one person, but now you're doing well with all these different people? Like, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, you said stop the cap. We're in a hat store now. We at Lids now. Okay, we at the men warehouse for hats right now, because we speak in Japanese right now.
For real. Oh, we lost Uncle Phil.
yeah. He need to come back up.
Yeah, what's going on, Kevin C? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so you got me over here.
Yeah,
so right from the rip, when I started thinking about women and everything associated with women, and I'm not complaining, I'm just telling you this is how men start to think. I start thinking money. So economically speaking, when you start talking about moving things across the board and sharing with a whole bunch of other women, I'm like, man, the only people, I'm telling you, the only guys who can even consider doing this are men who are independently wealthy, and they got money. They have so much money they don't really know what to do with it. They can actually waste the money. Like, the rest of us can't do that. One man, one woman, a few kids, and that's about all of us. The rest of us going to be able to do. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, from my understanding, and again, I'm not the expert on this, but from my understanding, polyamory does not necessarily mean that it's more, I think it's men and women, but in this context, it's women who were like, hey, I may want 2 boyfriends. So technically, she would be under the care of a couple of different men.
Yeah, dudes, we're not going to do that, though.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Or the care of no man.
Right.
Exactly. Right. That's the other end.
Right. Because what man, that's what I'm saying, you have to be a certain kind of man to do that. And I'm like, are those going to be the provider males that they would want?
Nope.
Would a provider, strong leader male be cool with sharing his women with
another? You see what I'm saying?
I have seen that situation where there's like a couple guys and one woman. But the whole thing gave me bad vibes right from the rip, and I'm like, this whole thing is weird.
Why they trying to live? She Gots to Have It. Why are we trying to live that movie now?
Is that what this is? Yeah, but again, like I said, economically speaking, it's just not going to work. And then, me, I kind of like to throw some stuff in the chat, but basically all we're talking about here is a female harem. Now, this is where I would be concerned: generational wealth, resources. Man, we're always talking about building this, building that, doing this, doing that, making sure we're setting up for future generations. How is that supposed to happen if you're one dude with 3 women, 10 kids spread out between you, and where's the distribution of the wealth there? Where's the distribution of the resources?
It doesn't happen. And now the dude ain't got, because I'm like, if you're on I'm a non-traditional woman, and you end up with a dude who's like, cool, I ain't got to share my ashes with you. Okay, you're at the end of the day, that's still a bad deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're sleeping with these different dudes, or you're emotionally involved because they'll be. But you're just like, stop the cap. These women on here, they're not out here being Puritans. You're not being emotionally involved with the dude and not eventually laying down with him. Like, stop.
Could I give y'all something to consider?
Mhm.
I think Chrissy is ahead of the curve. I think what we will start hearing
I
in the
do
next
think
few
she is.
years
I do think
is
she is.
this weird village idea where it doesn't matter where my kid, who helped to conceive this child, the tribe takes cares of it. So like it's a weird way of we're talking about loose women, but it's a weird way of having a village mindset, right? It's the most perverse way of thinking about a village, which is this kid can come from any one of you dudes, but all of you dudes are in charge of taking care of it. And I think it's a weird way she's entering this space because she doesn't want to have children herself. But I think what she's foregrounding is this weird village idea of I want to do whatever I want to do, and then I want the tribe to take care of the responsibility of whatever comes out of what I do. Right?
Absolutely. No, I feel like
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I definitely feel like you are what she's saying. I don't think this is going away. I think she is speaking on behalf of women. I just personally don't agree with it, and I think it's a bad idea, and I don't think it's going to lead to any kind of level up or an expansion of options. I think it's going to be detrimental.
So,
but I do.
I'm sorry, go ahead. So let me ask you
What's
this.
going on, Uncle Phil?
Uncle Phil. So let me ask you this.
Sister Shorty.
How's it going? So, Kevin, I know you had a question, and then I'll let.
I was just gonna ask one more, and then I'm gonna dip on out because I like to hear you talk. But this sounds like, man, I almost lost my train of thought here. We almost kind of have this situation right now with women who already have kids and dudes just kind of made the kids and dipped out. It sounds like we're trying to make this thing come together and just form this community and just kind of let guys off the hook. And I am not feeling that.
No.
Right? I'm not feeling that. Plus, on top of that, some dude's going to get stuck running it. Some dude's going to, there's always going to be like, well, we got to have a few guys, over all of this and then financing it and all this other stuff. It just, the whole thing sounds crazy to me.
It is. And that's what I'm saying. When you actually listen, granted, I don't pretend to be an expert on this, but the different people I've listened talking about it, it sounds like, it gives me hippie vibes where it's like,
we already have enough chaos as it is. And we black men and women need to be coming together, basically like how we did in the 60s and early. People hate to kind of go back to the 60s and early, but the thing is that remember, most black people and most black kids grew up in two-parent homes. We had strong communities, and it was under forced education.
Brother, could I give you something to think about? What we're finding, and not from the Shea Sade women of the community, but from these other type of women of the community, they were only with you because of segregation, because they were forced to be with you. That's something that black men are gonna have to deal with. Really, there are sisters, and it's what we're seeing is it's actually bigger than just black women. There are women in the Western world that they were only with you during the Victorian era and through all of the from about the 1700s. Actually, we could go back to the beginning of human history, but from about the 1700s on up, they were only with you because they were forced to be with you. The second industrialization and World War II happened, and they had a glimpse of not having to meet a man. Oh, they were out the door. And then when Reagan passed right, for real, when Reagan passed I'm sorry. No, exactly. Once Reagan passed no fault divorce, that was it. And I don't think you could put that genie in the bottle. Now we're dealing with the women that want to be with men, generally speaking, and the black women that want to be with black men, like my girl, like Shea Sade, whoever. Those are the women that's going to do it. Every other woman is going to try to finagle some type of weird new age relationship shit, Yeah.
Just because they don't, that goes back to what I said originally. At the core of this is women who are just like, we simply do not want to be with these men. We don't want to be in a traditional setup with these men, period. We don't want to have to work with them. We don't want to have to cooperate. We don't want their leadership.
Exactly.
We don't want it. It's just that simple. So I want to make sure Uncle Phil has some time to.
Yeah, hey, thanks for letting me on. Appreciate you guys. Hey, we only want volunteers, not hostages, okay?
All right. So, Sister Sade, good show. I was paying attention to this topic. I've seen somebody saying I'm channel surfing today. I actually am. Anyway, so you look at the report that you had played with the woman, and you're listening to the somber music and things like that. Well, we have to also understand this was presented by white media, and
Yep.
you have to
that.
also look at
Yep.
what's going on in white society. If you look at it, that the Republicans are clamping down on abortions big time in their community. They're not worried about us. We're just going to benefit off of those laws, actually. But they're clamping down on those abortions at the same time, promoting whoredom. Now, why would you promote whoredom? Well, they need to get their kids up, because they have a big shortage of white children, right? Now, you're
Say
talking
that.
about the other content creators.
Interesting.
A lot of them that's saying this, they don't want to be married. They want to just, because I told you earlier in the thing, I hate word salad. If you want to be a 304, just be that. It's okay. We live in the 21st century, but some women don't like the reality, so they try to come up with I'm not a 304. I'm not a whore. I'm
right.
polyamorous. No.
Yeah.
It's exactly. So how I'm looking at this thing is they're saying that because they can't attain marriage, right? So when somebody can't attain something, sometimes they say, well, I'm this. No, you really don't want to be that. Don't tell me that, because it's in most women want a man. They want a family. They want, like I said, taking the trips, do all the things that their families, would do, the birthdays, the holidays, whatever, right? I mean, because they're never going to have that, basically being a 304. And then we look at the physical aspect of women. Women, their bodies aren't made to have all these different men releasing into them physically and also spiritually. They can't do it.
Oh no, bad idea. That's what I'm saying.
You think all the yeast infections, probably all the going into pre-menopause, probably early because of some of these things.
Going to the ugliness.
Yeah, don't even talk about some of the STDs.
We're not.
They can get from fooling with some of these dirty dudes, because you got dudes out here that want to take baths no more. So no telling what they're going to get from some of these dudes they fooling with out here. So that's really what it is. So they thinking, oh well, hey, this is something new. No, the fact is, and then you look at it like right now we about to have all these high gas. Well, we got high gas prices. Let's say the food get even higher, or shortages, or whatever, right? Remember in the beginning of the pandemic when they shut everything down?
Yeah.
Them same little women that do all that talking online. What's the first thing they was doing, men on the panel? Oh, where the men's at? They like the men that were rejecting. All of a sudden they was like, "Hey, brother."
Hey, Phil, did you see their face at the grocery store? You saw the fear in their face at the grocery store when they were by themselves with no dude next to them? I'm just saying.
Yep. And see, look, them dudes, and it's the thing about them dudes. Yeah, they'll sleep with you, but most men want to have a family of their own. It's been proven. Most men want a family. It has. You know what I'm saying? They'll sleep with you, cool. But when they meet that woman they want to be with, it's sayonara, and they're going to be with their family. You understand? Right. So what they gonna do for these tough times that's about to come up?
That's what I'm saying. It's not. It's like I said. It was like a hippie conversation where it's like, okay, we're all up in the clouds here, but this is not healthy from any level. Realistically, practically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, this is not a sustainable.
And that's what I'm saying, Shay and Phil. Like, this is escapism. This is, Phil, what this is, and I would love to see you cover it on your channel because you got a huge platform. This is escapism. What ends up happening, and as a millennial, I could tell you straight up, we graduated high school into the .com bubble, the housing recession. Now we got COVID, and Chrissie is a little bit older than me, probably. She's like in her late 30s, maybe. And it's just so many young people, regardless of race, that just don't know what the hell to do. They got hit upside the head. Most of their parents don't got the answer. The institutions don't have the answer. The corporations don't have the answer. All they know what to do is exploit you. And so what ends up happening is we throwing anything at the wall. And what tradition would help, definitely would help. But because we saw our parents get divorced or if even get married in the first place, we don't actually believe that will work. So now we just throwing anything at the wall and nothing's sticking. So people just sounding crazier and crazier.
Well, you have to understand when you hear these little women say these things, brother, they're not willing to accept failure. They failed. And so
Mm.
due to them
Mm-hmm.
not accepting failure, some of
Mm-hmm.
them, thinking they got time, really
Mm-hmm.
I always tell women, the average women back in the day in our community used to be married at 19 years old, and back in the
Mm-hmm.
50s and the 60s and 40s, stuff like that. Oh, I got
Mm-hmm.
time, I got time, I got time. And then they age out, right?
Shout out to Vivica A. Fox. Oops.
Yeah, they age out. And then it's even worse today, because at least in that time period, you had segregation. So you couldn't have
Mm-hmm.
people fooling with all these different groups. You didn't travel like you're
Mm-hmm.
doing today. I mean, a man's shelf life now, he just take care of himself, is like endless, right? As
Mm-hmm.
long as his money is right. But so they didn't learn the skills like you're talking about. Like the women didn't know how to cook. They wouldn't
Yeah.
teach them how to clean, because they were latchkey kids,
Yep.
single parent households. So they were left by themselves while mama
Mm-hmm.
had to work. Daddy wasn't around in some of these instances, right? So they don't know how to do anything. That's why you remember the pandemic when they shut down all them restaurants? You had them
Yeah.
online talking about, I don't know how to cook. Well, what I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do? Like, that's skills you need to take care of a family.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and listen, you remember when they was talking about shutting down OnlyFans and how they were losing their mind about that?
Mm.
I mean, the
Yeah.
thing is, go ahead.
No, keep going, brother. You're on a roll. Keep going.
No, what I'm saying, the thing is, like I said, they just want it too easy, because OnlyFans is
Yes.
easy. Take off
Yes.
your
Yes.
clothes, get money from simps, right? I mean, instead of even taking that money and doing something different with it, and maybe building an empire or whatever it may be, they just make it just so easy. But lose your internet, and this is like a Western world
Mm-hmm.
thing, because
Yes,
like
it
that's
is.
why when Sade, I saw her on Community Tab, she was talking about going to the continent of Africa. I love it over there because it's like traditional. Men are
Mm-hmm.
respected. It's beautiful over there, and like so, I'll be there next week. Can't wait. Going to South Africa. But I'm saying that they really about to get a rude awakening with this gas and all of that, because how you gonna have money be going back and forth doing whatever? Because some of you can't afford no $7 gas, $8 gas.
Hey,
Can't afford it.
have fun trying to chase after the 11% of dudes that make six figures or more. And what you're speaking about, Phil, is being risk adverse. And I think that people mainly under the age of about 45-ish, they're super risk adverse. And that I would put me in there also, because once again, the fear of failure and watching so many Xers and boomers not make it. We're not talking about the ones that made it. We're talking about being raised by older Xers and boomers, and then watching them fail, or watching the housing recession happen and your parents lose their home, or your aunt or uncle, all of that shit. It scared the hell out of us. Divorce and losing homes, right? And so a lot of people just don't want to invest. And this is going to what you were saying. They don't want to invest. So they keep on pretending like, well, I just don't want it. No, it's not that you don't want it. You're afraid that you might get it and then lose it. And that's just a risk of life.
Yeah, I think you're really hitting on some facts there, because
yeah.
And sometimes I wonder how much of this stuff is subconscious, or we're not even really aware of it. We're just reacting. Because you hit the nail on the head. Like millennials in particular, we've experienced so many just random, just a lot of, I don't even know how to put it, but just, the pandemic, you said the housing crisis. I mean, just all these different things that, not to say our parents and our grandparents didn't have hard times, they certainly did, but we're in a different, somewhat of a unknown space that most people, it's like people just don't know how to navigate. And to your point, already coming from broken homes, like there's just, I think you hit the nail on the head of just reacting from fear. And it doesn't help that, if you come from a culture where, sadly, at least in the American dynamic, men haven't really been taught to be respected and honored in any capacity. We fear maleness. We fear male authority and male discipline and male structure. We fear that. And so the very things that may help us navigate or may help bring solutions, we're not willing to work with because we're afraid.
Phil and Sade, here's one of the issues. The left don't got no answers and the right got all the wrong answers. And your institution, you say that again, Phil?
Well, I was about to say, when you say the left and right, this is my thing. Let's say right now, she's speaking about that, right? Let's say if for some reason there's a cyber attack on the power grid, right? And now we ain't got no lights. Let's say we don't have lights even for 14 days. Most of these females you talking about, right? They're not prepared for that. Like in Texas, we had a winter storm, right?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
At my crib, I was good. I had generators, gas, a gas stove, food. I was warm. I was good, right? Like I said, even after that, I bought more stuff. I said, okay, I got 200 pounds of rice, 200 pounds of beans. I got water all out the place. I got my
Phil, where you
ready.
live again for research purposes? I know y'all got open carry in Texas, but where you live again?
I got my tools ready, and I got my ammo and everything else that I got.
Phil said, "Come to the house wrong if you want to."
Yeah, just in case you want to come up in here. What I'm saying is, when you get in a situation like what I'm talking about, which we about to have some hard times now, because them little females, they're not doing too good on cash wise. They're gonna be looking for men. I'm telling you, they're gonna be looking for men, and the men not gonna be there, and it's gonna be woe unto them. But they will see, because they don't believe fat meat is greasy.
No, I was thinking about that. It's going to be interesting to see how these conversations evolve or devolve, or how, they respond to reality as inflation continues, as the war economy does its thing, as we see, just the economy just get harder for people to just survive. It's going to be really interesting to see how these different channels and these different ideas and ideologies, what happens to them.
I think this is about the young girls, Shay. This is about because the women my age, maybe your age, definitely Phil's age, they're gone. They're done. It's done. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. They're going to die in their apartments by themselves. It's a wrap. When we talk about women 20 and younger, on the other hand, that's a different conversation. Those women, young women, can be helped. We can, look what happened to your aunt. Look what happened to your older girl, your older sister. Look what happened to your older girl cousin. We can help those young women, 15, 16, 12, 20, 19, right? But I want to say 25, 26 and older, it's done, because they grew up in an environment that's just insulting and belittling men, black men specifically, but couching it as constructive criticism, as female empowerment. And you can't unlearn that. I don't think, even with the environment getting super duper rough, I don't think they can unlearn that. I think those women most likely are going to end up either on some LGBTQ stuff, or just dying alone, maybe attempting to use naive men. But I really don't see how. I don't see them trying to end up in a productive, constructive heterosexual relationship. I just don't see it. Not for the masses of them anyway.
Well, I wouldn't say all of them are just far gone, because I believe some people do have a way to change. Because I've changed my ways in many different times in my lifetime, so it's for the better, right? So I wouldn't say write them off, but they are. I will give a younger woman more leeway, just like I would give a young man more leeway. But when they get like my age and older, oh no, I don't want to hear that, because you stuck in your ways at this point. So I'd rather look, like you said, reach more to the 20-some-year-olds. My problem is when you put out messages like that to younger women, or like telling, oh, just get you a zaddy, and then now these women getting their scalp shaved off, in apartments, hotels, and you taking, oh, well, it was natural causes, and you're 29. I look at it, those messages, those failures are putting out there to influence the younger women, and that's a problem, because they're not going to be there when they're dealing with a killer zaddy, or they're out here, with all these different men, even if they black men. And then what they gonna do with all those children, illegitimate, because back in the day, we used to call them children illegitimate bastard children back in the day. Now we celebrate that. As a community, we never celebrated no baby shower for a woman that wasn't married. You know what I'm saying? We actually had some decorum in our community at one point in time, but now it's a free-for-all, and this is where we at today. So, I mean, I would say as a father, just be there for your daughter and teach your daughter the right way. Prepare your daughter to become a wife. That's what you can do as a father with your daughter. You can't control the rest of them, but make sure if you got a daughter, teach her what's right. Make sure you get with a woman that's a real woman, that's feminine and all of that, and has those traits that can pass those traits down to your daughter. That's the only thing that we can do to turn that around.
Yeah, to me, I know oftentimes we talk about how this individual people and how they mess up, and I go into that often too, but I like to talk more often about the environment, because I think it's exacerbating, right? So you would always, this was always going to exist. You was always going to have some wayward people in the Black community. That's always been a thing, human history, right? But when you have a certain type of environment, and that's where I was going earlier when I mentioned the left and the right, you have an environment that's encouraging this, right? And because once again, the institutions are failing, number one. Number two, like I said earlier, the left don't have no answers and the right got all the wrong answers, right? Going to what Phil was saying about especially in Texas and certain other southern states trying to force white women essentially to have these kids because their birth rate is at like 1.7 and decreasing. Ours is even at 1.8 and decreasing, right? So, some of these women are out here, that's insane to me. You're out here, you're not having kids though. We do know about the LaQuishas and some of the hood chicks with 5 and 6 kids, but that's really not a thing anymore. That hasn't been a thing since about the early aughts. What's really happening is people are just living loosely. At least they're not having children. I don't know how they're not having children, abortions or whatever, condoms maybe, probably not. But I think I'm saying all of that to say, I don't really know how you fix this outside of what Phil just said. Outside of your individual daughters and your individual nieces and maybe the circle of young women around you, so that they don't end up sounding like Chrissie. And I think what's very important to mention, I'll end with this. Chrissie's not the only one that said something like this. If y'all remember, the notorious swirler queen herself, her oldest daughter was on the same shit. I don't know if y'all remember.
Yeah, I actually saw I think I saw some documentary she was on.
That's the one. Yep. So that lets you know.
She'd entered like the couple who they had been like together for some time, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being that. I was so confused. I was so confused.
And that's exactly what it is, Shay. It's confusing. You're confused because it is confusing. And everything you said earlier about this stuff being nebulous, you're 100% right. Everything you said about they don't want it to be measurable, you're 100% right. As a matter of fact, your last live stream, that was last night or the night before, I was in a battle in the comment section with one of these swirler women, and I was like, well, Black men need to level up and Black men need to do this. Compared to who? She wouldn't give me an answer. You want to know why? Because whoever you say, I know enough to be like, well, these men do this wrong, that wrong, this wrong. So you purposely don't give an answer because you don't want me to give you a definitive answer to your definitive answer. That's these women in a nutshell. They don't want the things to be measured. They don't want to tell you what level up really looks like. They don't want to tell you what all of these things look like, because then we can be like, all right, bet none of y'all meeting those requirements. Only 5% of y'all, or only 10%. So they give you a nebulous answer on purpose. It's always some gray area stuff. And I'll pause right there.
I hear you. No, I agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head. When there's not clear guidelines of what you're even going for, what you even want, then there's no way that you can ever assess failure or ever assess, hey, maybe I'm going in the wrong direction. So it's in that sense, it is escapism. You're escaping the fact that you're not even being honest with yourself. And you can't get much accomplished if you live that way. I think it's better to be like, hey, this is what I want. And then maybe you mess up, maybe you miss it, or maybe you're like, oh man, I did wrong. And then you can adjust, learn, progress, evolve, and do better. So I think it's better to be clear and upfront with what you actually want, what you're going for.
Sounds like too much risk, Shay. Sounds like too much work. Sounds like I'm gonna actually, something you just said, sounds like I would actually have to admit, okay, you know what, I was wrong. Emphasis, wrong. One more time, wrong about that. Let me redirect. I think that right there is much of what we have going on. People don't want to give themselves a clear and concise thing they want to accomplish, so that they could potentially fail. And what ends up this is how the internet ruins people, right? What ends up happening is, and this is kind of where Mr. Research was going last night. Now you can get into your coven of certain like-minded people that y'all probably would have never met in real life, and now y'all can regurgitate the same BS to each other over and over again. So instead of you evolving and saying, you know what, I messed up here, let me redirect, or instead of the environment forcing you to change, what's going on now is that we get in our little echo chambers on the internet and just regurgitate the same thing to each other and never actually fix the problem. Now we're just hurt girl and hurt boy bonding on the internet, apparently.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it's another thing I need to add to with some of what you just said. You
Hmm.
mentioned content creators. People, some of these people who's making that content, even though it may sound crazy, they may not even be living their life like that. They may
You're
tell
right.
you to be a three or
Hmm.
four, but they got a whole man at home about to get
Hmm.
married. Or they could tell you hate black men, but they love black men, right? They got a black man leaning in the bed next to them. It's all about, I tell people, some people saying things to collect that AdSense check at the expense of
Hmm.
other people, unfortunately.
Yep.
That
Yep.
that's the bad part, because then you may see them in public like, wait a minute, I thought you hated brothers. Oh no, I ain't never said that. He different anyway. He ain't like the rest of them. Watch my video tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so that's just the only bad thing, because YouTube incentivizes the worst of the, especially you go in on
Hmm.
brothers or certain things you just do, they just incentivize it. You
Yes.
know, and so of course, if you get $1,000 off a video talking about brothers or whatever, what you gonna do? You gonna keep doing it? You know, I
You
mean,
you know,
so
Phil, there was a documentary, and I would love for you to watch it. I think you would get a really good perspective on it. The Social Dilemma, right? And it covers a dude, his name Tristan Harris. He did a bunch of interviews about it, where he talks about building social media sites and whatnot, and helping to build Google and Facebook and whatever. But he talks about how the algorithm, they know how to tone down the rage on the internet, and they know how to let it go and to let people spew all the ridiculousness. And this is why Facebook got in trouble for January 6th and all this other stuff, because they saw what was going on, and they could have done things to tone it down, but they didn't, because of their money. So this is going to what you're saying, whereas, the Oscar Wilde quote, I said this last night. It's difficult to get a man to believe something, especially when his income is dependent on him not believing it, right? That's what you're speaking about, where these people are pushing these messages even if they not live in it, and then the algorithm, whatever website you're on, is showing you these things. So you're going from this one content creator to this other content creator to this other content creator, who are all saying the same negative things about a particular subject or about a group of people, about a certain event. And all you're doing, you're literally radicalizing yourself. Right? We talk about some of those terrorists, that nowadays they don't got to go overseas to be radicalized. They could just watch videos on the internet. That's what people are doing literally at their homes all day, every day, or on their phones. I'll pause right there.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, no, you guys are hitting on some good points. It looks like, hmm. Okay, I'm like, I have a few other callers
Yeah,
back
I'm a
there.
drop shade because I'm a friend of the house, and I'm not trying to talk about relationships. I'm trying to maintain mine. So let me go inside. But Phil, it was great talking to you, brother. Keep up the good work. I hope you have fun in Africa, and I'll keep on checking out your stuff. Shay, thank
Yeah,
you for having me up. This was a great talk, great review of her. Pretty much everything you said was 100% on point. And I'm gonna drop off. Good night, y'all.
all right. Let's see who I got back here. All right, so I'm gonna take one more call, guys. If you're on here, get those likes up. Also, send in your love and support. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. Also, send in your super chats, you guys. Be sure to support your favorite content creators. We love doing it, and we'll do the best we can to get you guys good content that you can enjoy and learn from. But we do need your support, so be sure to hit the Cash App, hit me on Venmo or super chat. So looks like I got and one more here. Let's see. Well, actually, I got two.
All right.
Hey there. So I'm gonna So you guys are gonna be my last calls, and I'm gonna wrap this up. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on what's been going on here. I'll start with you, Chaos Rain.
Well, I'm not familiar with what it called Polyamory, but if that's the new game that these ladies are about to play, it's going to end in disaster, in my opinion. And let's be honest, Shay, a lot of men are actually not only waking up, but they're wising up too. I was listening to another stream of some of the men that don't want to deal with ladies here in America and they want elsewhere. And the reason why, because their money not only will stretch farther, but really they'll get a better outcome than women out here in the West, from what I'm seeing, you know. Because let's be honest, when economic downturn happens, women very much know what to do in regards to adjustment in the environment, from what I'm seeing.
Right. Yeah. No, I know. I hear you. No matter me personally, no matter how you look at it, like any way you look at it, it just seems like it does not seem like a bad setup. And I think, what the previous caller said, they pretty much hit the nail on the head as far as, we react to fear. We kind of come up with all these theories and ideas that are not based upon anything historical, anything that we've seen that has actually worked in previous societies in previous times, partially because maybe we're afraid, or partially because we just know deep down inside we maybe can't get what we want, or we haven't been able to successfully do it. And instead of addressing that and saying, okay, maybe I messed this here, or maybe I can improve here, we'd rather move the goalpost. But the issue is, what we've discussed, like I said, polyamory, which is essentially a woman not committing in a traditional marriage or anything like that with a man, and being open to, quote unquote, share her love with whoever, that is not going to lead to anything good. Like, it's not gonna, as far as a structural standpoint for the community, long term, I don't see how a woman not being in a committed setup, not having any financial security, it's just a bad setup. We've already discussed it. We've already discussed the different issues, but like I said, it's just a bad setup.
Well, the biggest thing with that to me would be this, like, frankly, I feel like the type of man that they want would never go for that. I'm just me personally.
Right. Yes, that part too.
I could never share my woman. Like, I'm a very generous person, but when it comes to me and my family and my woman like that, like, so it's going to be one of those things. But what they would end up with would be a lot of the men that they kind of don't truly desire, and there'd be feelings of resentment and whatnot, and it would kind of fester and be a whole toxic circle. But it's one of those things where the people that they want aren't going to sign up for that lifestyle, because one, they know who they are and they respect themselves too much to ever get in that type of situation.
Right. I agree. I completely and totally agree. In the different scenarios, I saw one couple in particular, like I mentioned, there was a Black woman and she had a white boyfriend and then a newer Black boyfriend. They both looked really, really, really young. I mean, I don't know about the setup, but just from the interactions that they all had with one another, like, you can generally tell by how people interact, how people talk, their body language. You can generally tell, you get a sense of the relationship dynamic. And it didn't seem, based on what I saw, that the kind of men that she was with in that relationship might be, the ones that they think of stereotypically when you're thinking of a provider male. Like, it's very clear. Women are very clear of what they think a high value man is, or very clear about those standards. But like I said, those standards tend to all of a sudden be very unclear when it comes to how we measure ourselves as women. And I think that's where it's just dishonest. Yeah. So.
Definitely. And one thing too, I will say this before everybody cuts out, but when it comes to women and these women kind of chasing after high value men, one thing that I feel a lot of younger girls kind of get sold on nowadays is they don't really realize, like, one, what a high value man really is, and two, that in most cases there are a lot of well-to-do guys out here that could be the guy of your dreams. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to be a six-figure executive doing whatever. Like, there's a lot of guys making 75, 80K that, got good morals, good character, and really truly are more the speed of what a lot of women are looking for, but are getting overlooked, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, I mean, this to me, just the whole fact that we're having this conversation is the fact that we're having this conversation speaks to the fact where it's just like, I will say I'm not mad at people who, men who look for options outside of this nation, I'm not mad at it. And of course, I don't believe this isn't all women who are thinking like this. It's not. And I know there's plenty of women who are just like, yeah, no, this is not good. This is not healthy. Maybe I don't believe in marriage, but I don't want to do not all women today are believing this, but the fact that, again, her being a thought leader and her being someone that many women tune into, many women listen to, many women look up to, and she is, openly talking about this and putting it out there as a viable option, I think speaks to the general trend of a good portion of us. And to me, I think that's concerning, if I'm just being honest.
No, definitely. Go ahead, bro.
It is very concerning. But like I said, as the environment changed, ladies know what to do and when to act right. You get me? They're more accepting to the environment than us men, on here. So, like I said, a man has to do what he can, even he has to impose the environment to get the outcomes he needs. And these ladies are gonna do what they're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta watch out for the signs, because we know it's like it's being played out here. And it's being played more because, let's be honest, Shay, they have raised a group of men to be simps, betas, etc. So they're not gonna really question anything, have order, or have some standards. So,
right? No, I hear you. Well, I do appreciate both of you guys hopping on. I think I'm gonna try to wrap things up over here. But it was good to have you guys call in and share your perspective.
I do have one question. The videos with TikTok with the girl with her half baby, where I can find that? I don't know if you could send me the link.
I put the link. Didn't I put the link in the description?
I don't think it was when I checked when I was going back to it, because I might have to examine that. I have a story.
Okay, I know. Also, I got it actually from Water Sniper. Water Sniper shared it on his channel, so you can find it there too. Water Sniper's channel. He shares a lot of different stuff like that.
Yeah. I gotta check if I'm subscribed to Water Sniper, because I might have to get it.
Yeah, that's actually where I got it. It's on his page.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, anything, I'll go back and see if it's in the description. If not, I will put a quick comment say it's not in the description.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, thank both of you guys for calling in.
All right.
Take care.
Take care. Let me go. All
right. Okay. So, interesting talk, interesting point of view. As I mentioned, at the end of the day, guys, I would not recommend, or guys, really ladies, I would not recommend a polyamorous lifestyle. I don't think it's the best option. I don't. I know, this may not be popular. This may seem old school, or this may seem, constrictive, but at the end of the day, there are certain traditional things and there are certain older things that aren't necessarily bad, that maybe they've been traditional, maybe they've been happening for so long because there's actually value to it. And as women, our God-given purpose is not to have, different men or women, for that matter, in and out of our bodies all the time. Or even if you are a polyamorous person and you want to be emotionally connected with all these different people romantically, and it's not a fully physical, no matter how you put it, that is not a stable environment. At our core as women, at our core as heterosexual women, we're looking for stability. We want stability. We want security. Most of us want that at the core. We just do. We can kind of dance around the idea. We can pretend like we're trying to redefine all these different things, but we can't really redefine our femininity, our God-given desires and our wants, right? It's natural as a woman to want stability. It's natural as a woman to want a family. That's very natural and it's very normal. And I think sometimes we dance around the fact that some of us just simply don't know how to get it. So I think if you're in a place in your life where that is something that you desire, that is something that you want, and you feel like you failed, or you feel like you're at a place where you haven't been able to do that, I think you would be better off admitting that and saying, oh, man, I do want this, but I don't know how to get it. And then start there, versus now changing the goalpost and now saying, oh, well, actually, maybe marriage isn't that important anyways, or maybe children isn't that important anyways, or maybe, forget committing. I shouldn't commit to anyone. It's like, no, just because it's traditional doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And more importantly, with the changing economy, with the changing, just the way the society is changing, you're not going to be able to level up and have a secure and stable life if you are emotionally connected with a ton of different people. There's no stability. There's no one there to work with. You're not really building a vision with one person. And more importantly, as some of the guests mentioned earlier, the kind of men that we want as heterosexual women, primarily, the kind of men that we want, those strong leader provider males, they're not going to go for that. They're not going to go for you sleeping around with different people or him sharing you sexually. Those kind of provider males, they're just not doing it. They're not doing it. Not to mention the physical repercussions, the psychological repercussions, the spiritual repercussions. The fact that we're even having these conversations today speaks to a very deeper spiritual root, a deep spiritual cancer, whether it's fear of failure, not being honest with ourselves, not being honest with what's going on, all these different things. But at the end of the day, you living in a life that is free of boundaries, that is free of God-given authority, that is free of, quote unquote, free of any expectations, any of those things, it's not going to lead to your happiness. It's not. Like I said, at best, it may feel good and it may feel liberating and fun, but as far as a long-term stable option, as far as you having a stable place to go to, as long as you being emotionally cared for, having a man to protect and provide you, having a man, because all those things we want, protection, provision, you know what I mean? We want structure. Women, we do want structure. Even if we say it's oppressive, we want it. Without it, we will feel resentful. All of those things come within the context of being in a committed relationship with a strong provider, leader male who is not going to want you to be sleeping around with a whole bunch of different people. There's just really no other way around it. So like I said, I don't see this as a viable setup. I don't see this as a viable setup. And do not be fooled by the whole love. Oh, this more love, more love, more love. If people don't know how to get along with one person, if you don't know how to have a successful relationship with one person monogamously, how are you now going to ramp that up to another level and have successful relationships with multiple people when the communication becomes harder? That's nonsense. So don't get caught up in the lie. If at the end of the day, you really do want a committed relationship with a man, you do want a strong provider male, you do want marriage, please say that. And if you haven't had it, don't change the goalpost to something that's not going to work. Address why that's happening. Start by being honest. I think this is why we have lost, so many of us women, we have lost any sense of not only what it means to be a woman, what it means to be connected to our higher power, what it means to be connected to God, what it means to be connected with just real, truthful, and honest things. We can't even do that. And this is why I think we're playing around with ideas that are completely toxic and that will lead us nowhere. This will lead us nowhere. And, as I mentioned in one of the audios that I played, where Chrissie said, I would rather be in an apartment with cat and dogs than have your marriage. And many will, if that's their position, they will be in, the home alone with cat and dogs, which, hey, if that gives them peace, but don't act and pretend like you rejecting nature, you rejecting your God-given role, right? You're rejecting essentially the natural order of things is going to give you peace and happiness. No, if you say, I refuse to get along with men in this capacity, it's not going to automatically work now when you go and try to interact with multiple men. It's just not going to happen. But anyways, I appreciate you guys being here with me. Again, don't forget to hit the like button. Oh, also, I do want to show support to those who showed me some love on the Cash App. I do appreciate you, or the Super Chat. Barry Hamilton for the $4.49 super sticker. I do appreciate the love and support again, guys. You can show support here on my Cash App, or you can show support on the Cash App or Venmo. You can also show support on the Super Chat. I'm trying to see if I got another one. I think I read that already, but again, just to reiterate, here's the last one for the culture. So yes, you guys, please support your favorite content creators. We do our best to try to bring you good content. but we do depend upon, your support. This is a team effort. So please support your content, your favorite content creators, whether it's channel membership, super chats when you can, cash apps. Also, shout out to, is that okay? Oh, Anise Test 316. I've seen you give a few times. So I really appreciate you with that super chat donation. I mean the cash app donation. I keep on getting it mixed up. Appreciate all you guys. So, anyways, this is good. This was interesting. I think Chrissie was, to a certain extent, foretelling what some women are going to be doing. And if nothing else, if there's young women out there who are considering it, I hope this, sways them to think otherwise, or at least gives them another perspective. So whatever they choose, they can go into it having an understanding of what will likely happen. Anyways, this has been good. And I will be in touch. We'll talk later. And thanks for hanging out. Bye.